God. So this morning I'm speaking to Noer Didrichsen. So she's joining us from the most phenomenal and exciting concept. It is called Big Ideas Growing Minds. And what she does is she takes best-selling books or big books that are going to be bestsellers and translates them into short YouTube videos. So Ellen, welcome. And we were
Thank
just
you.
chatting casually, and just tell me how you started this idea that you've had and this channel.
Yes, of course. I mean, and I used to be in leadership development. I used to work for a very big Danish company, a big international company, and I used to do leadership development. And one of the things that always sort of puzzled me was that we only teach these important concepts to like the executives. Not, I was always like, let's teach this to all our employees, like active listening and nonviolent communication and all those topics. But actually, for me, I only learned about as a grown up, and I was like, we need to get this information out to people in a nice and easy way. So that was always my thinking behind it. And then the idea actually came about because my kids watch so much YouTube, and I was like, I have two boys, and it's their only go-to medium. And I was like, I need to get on board with this because it's such a good way to sort of send these things out into the world in a cheap and free and fun way. So that was actually that's the big purpose behind the channel, is to just make these wonderful concepts available to people everywhere.
And which books did you start with? Where did you sort of first settle on?
Well, I did. That's the good thing about my channel, is that I can do whatever I want. So one of the things I wanted to do was do my favorites first, but also do something that are like the biggest books in the world. So I did Simon Sinek, Start with Why, and Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, and then also Marshall Goldsmith's What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And that's sort of where I started, and then I built from there. Also nonviolent communication, of course, which is just also one of my favorite concepts.
So you're taking the book, you are reading the book, knowing the book, understanding it, and then you're summarizing it. And I think you said in your blurb it's 900 words. You reduce it to, and then you narrate it, and it's a animated video that sums up the absolute key points. Tell me about that process of actually refining a book into 900 words. Some of them already there, like the Stephen Covey. How on the other ones did you sum it all up?
Yeah, that's actually the trickiest part of what I do. It's about taking the whole book, and then usually I read the book or listen to the audio book, and then I just write it down a summary, and then maybe that's like 1,200 words. But I know from experience that if you want to keep the video into 5 minutes, which is my goal, then you need to sum it down to 900 words. And then I basically do the summary, and then I start cutting and editing until I get it, until that I call it Bullen cube knowledge, which I think is a very good way of seeing it. So it's really that super condensed version of the book that I end up with at the end. And it's actually an interesting process, because at one point I did one of a book where he had like 100 different ideas, and turning that into 5-minute videos was such a challenge for me. But I actually find in the end that once you're down to those 900 words, it's just super crisp. So even though it's very difficult to sort of cut layers, at the end it just turns out to be, I think, very specific and very precise.
So how does this, should a writer be concerned that somebody's summarizing their book, or do you think it feeds into the same sales mechanism?
In the beginning, it was one of the things that I thought about a lot. I was like, how would I feel if anyone else sort of took my work and did that? But I actually learned that I think it's a very modern way of working and collaborating across countries, because the way I see it, when I take these books, all I'm doing is helping them sell more books, because I'm not stealing their concept. I'm not in any way. I mean, you're not going to learn in 5 minutes, like Start with Why with Simon Sinek. You need to learn to read the full book. All I do is that I'm providing the essence. And I think actually it turns out to be a win-win situation with these authors. And actually some of them I can see is also sharing it on their social platforms. So I think for us, me also growing up in a time where IP rights was something you protected sorry, that's a difficult word, with a great care, then it's a modern way of working together, is actually just putting your stuff out there and then working together sort of. And I'm always providing links to their books. So basically what I'm doing is helping them sell more books and sort of, and I never recommend or dislike or anything the books. It's simply a summary. So it's not a review as such that I do. It's just summarizing the key points from the book. And then throwing it out there as an appetizer for other people to actually then go and read the full book.
And then, Ellen, you know, your business is called Big Ideas and Growing Minds. And I'm just wondering often if the writer starts with the big idea. With the Stephen Covey, I'm assuming he did, you know, he had the 7 habits of highly effective people. But when you took a book like Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, do you think he began with this sort of big idea concept, or did it just emerge in the writing of his book?
Well, for me, I think actually all of the books that become really great are the ones that actually, like Simon Sinek says, they started with why. I think if you just, you know, I want to write a book about something and then you go do that, it's not going to be as successful as if you actually have like something that you really want to put out there, a big idea, a genius thought, something that you really want to put out there. So it's not my place to say, but I mean, I would guess that most of them actually started with the big ideas, and then they sort of molded the book and the concept around that. That would be my guess.
Brilliant. And thank you for that, Ellen. And I will drop all the links below so everyone can get hold of you and find out, and definitely speed reading some of the big books. Okay. Ellen, we were chatting a little bit about what makes a book incredibly readable, and you spoke about not putting too much in as an author. Have you had books that just have too many messages?
Yeah, I see that actually sometimes, and I think one of the good things about the way that I work with the material is that because sometimes you just read a book and then you go like, oh yeah, I got it, and then you move on. But the way that I work with it, it's so intense. So I really get down into the layers of the book, and sometimes I just see people just wanting to do too much, and it becomes really difficult, of course, for me to sort of condense it into Bullen cube knowledge. But I think it's so important that authors, that they really stick to the essence of what it is that they want to bring out there, because otherwise, I mean, they say that people can only remember 3 things anyways once the book is done. If you go back in 2 years and you remember reading a book, and you can maybe remember 1 or 2 things. So it's just so crucial to just stick to what is the one thing you want people to remember in your book, and then just stick with that.
Oh, excellent advice. That's brilliant. 3 things and then down to 1. I love it. Thank you, Ellen.
No problem.
And now I have stopped